So the idea behind this concept is playing more fluid. Oftentimes we fall into the habit of just dropping our hands down and playing everything at the same time, and there's really no conversation going on between notes being played. And so what I mean is we'll just play chords. None of the verses are really doing anything off of each other. You know, like the top voice isn't responding to what the middle voice is doing, for example. So it's just a bunch of notes being played at the same time. So you want to reach a point where each voice on the instrument is telling its own story. Maybe the soprano voice is telling you one thing and then the alto voice responds to it. So maybe you have a progression that goes like this. Right? And instead of playing all the notes at the same time, maybe you can create some type of conversation or some type of counterpoint with each individual voice. So the top voice can go like this, right? And so maybe the middle voice wants to complement it by going like this, and then together, right? And then maybe the tenor voice wants to complement the alto voice by going like this, right? And then together, right? And maybe the bass wants to complement all the voices by doing something like, okay, so together they go like, right? So that's a whole different feeling and experience, and just so you want your playing to be a conversation. You want it to say something, and hopefully something meaningful, right? And you want it to have peaks and valleys, different textures, different nuances. And so there's a few things that I do to help me attain that style of play. Number one is counterpoint, or counter melody, which really means playing a secondary melody alongside the primary melody. Number two is tension and release. Tension release and chord resolution. So an example of that is if I know that, let's say B flat minor is supposed to land on beat 1, but instead of landing on B flat minor, I'll land on an F7 on beat 1 and resolve to B flat minor on beat 2. So a song that I would do this in is like Blessed Assurance. Right? So. Okay, so this is the B flat minor 7. So instead of landing on B flat minor 7 on the 1, this will be the 1. I'll land on an F and then resolve to B flat minor. So okay, so this is an F7 flat 13. So that's creating tension, and then it's releasing when I actually resolve. So that's one of the techniques that I use. Another technique that I'll use are arpeggios, inversions, and of course drop twos and rootless voicings. So let's take a simple progression and see how we can apply some of these ideas and kind of bring out the orchestration aspect of, music. Okay, so right before we jump into an actual progression and try out some of these things in a real life situation, I just want to quickly go over what counterpoint is for those of you who may not be familiar with it. So again, counterpoint is a secondary melody that you play alongside your primary melody. So if my primary melody is this, right, I can have a counterpoint melody that complements that. So something like, right? Now the rule of thumb is counterpoint melodies sound the best when they're going the opposite way from the primary melody. So counterpoint that's going like this is more effective than a counter melody that's going in the same direction. So it's more powerful and effective than. Okay, cool. So the example that we're going to be doing is a simple progression in the key of D flat. So we're going to go D flat over F to G flat. It's going to look like this. Okay, so first thing to do is to add some counterpoint to the melody. So the melody is alright. So what we're gonna do is create some counterpoint. So we'll do something like what? Right. Okay. Cool, that works. So I have my counter melody starting down the third, and then it harmonizes the melody down to 6, and then it plays the same unison note as the melody. Okay. In context, it'll sound like this. Okay, so you can already see a difference from and okay. Now step 2 is adding tension and dissonance and then releasing it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this, then releasing it. So really, harmonically, what I'm doing is an A flat triad over G flat, and then resolving to G flat. But instead of playing all the notes, I'll just play a few of them. Cool. Context, it'll sound like this. Okay, now the third thing to do is to add a drop 2 or inversion. So we already have an inversion, right? That the first chord is D flat over F, so that's D flat in first inversion. So we'll add a drop 2 to it. So I'll do a D flat drop 2 in second inversion. Okay, so it'll be like this in context. My drop 2 is my tension. Okay, so everything is applied at this point. I have my my counterpoint, have my tension, have my drop 2. We can already see the difference between that and just this. Now the last thing to do is add rhythmic variations and melodic displacements. So some of the melodies that you heard being played in the soprano voice are now going to be played in the alto or tenor voice. Okay, now let's do that again a little slower. Okay, so the melody that was played in the alto is now being played an octave higher, while the first 2 are being played an octave higher, but then we drop back down, right? Instead of, so now. And this is my drop 2. Okay, now before we even go further, just take a look at how the left hand is resolving. That's the rhythmic displacement. So instead of playing them all at the same time, right, you have notes resolving in different at different times, essentially. This is my tension. And instead of resolving this up here where it was before, now we're resolving an octave lower where I have the fifth on top. And the left hand is resolving like this, as opposed to all at the same time. So that's a drastic difference from, right? Big difference. So for this last example, I want to compile everything and use it in actual songs so you get a better idea of what it sounds like in context. So I'll play a little bit of it as well.